Breaking now on Up Late, American troops in danger tonight. This is new video showing the moment Iranian missiles hit an Iraqi airbase housing U.S. military forces. An American official tells the Associated Press there are very few, if any, casualties. Tonight, the Pentagon confirms 2 attacks, one at an airbase in the western part of the country and a second bombing at a base in northern Iraq. The U.S. Defense Department say Iran fired a dozen ballistic missiles.
All right, so just in the last hour, President Donald Trump responded tonight with a tweet saying, quote, "All is well, assessment of casualties and damages taking place right now. So far, so good." The president also says that he will make a statement in the morning. Now, this is an act of retaliation for the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Iran said that it would strike, and now we know how.
So we are covering every breaking development in this story for you tonight, from what this means for our country, reaction from lawmakers, and what could happen next. Let's begin our team coverage tonight with Ryan Kruger in the newsroom. Now, Ryan, President Trump says, quote, "all is well," but clearly there is a lot of worry about tonight.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, he mentioned so far so good, referring to the U.S. casualties. Exact figures, though, on any kind of damage still being assessed. Now, Iran's foreign minister said just a few minutes ago that the ballistic missile attacks were, quote, "proportionate responses in self-defense." He also added that Iran doesn't want to escalate a war, but that it will defend itself. In the last hour, I spoke with Todd Stein, a terrorism expert who served on the Senate Homeland Security Committee, about what could possibly happen next.
Historically, Iran does not export terrorism to the United States. They're not like Al-Qaeda. It's a different type of terrorism. It's regional, and it has sort of geopolitical goals in mind. Historically, I would not expect a response here in the United States, but of course, history can always change.
In Washington, Republicans and Democrats are at odds tonight, with Republicans supporting President Trump and Democrats saying the U.S. needs to de-escalate tensions.
I want to know whether the Iranians were shooting at our people or at infrastructure. But it is clear this is just another example of Iran trying to export terrorism.
This is a reminder why we need to de-escalate tension in the Middle East. The American people do not want a war with Iran.
And in addition to the military action, Homeland Security also issuing a warning for American businesses to prepare for the possibility of cyber attacks. Remember, it was 2 Iranian nationals who allegedly hacked the city of Atlanta 2 years ago.
All right, thanks a lot, Ryan, for that perspective. Of course, this is one of the top stories on 11alive.com, and everyone is talking about this on social media. Natisha Lance here, she joins us with the mixed reaction tonight on Twitter especially.
Yeah, much of a mixed reaction, Ron. Well, Iran attacks started trending almost immediately as we got confirmation about those attacks. A lot of folks expressing their concern over the safety of our troops and also what they think should happen next. So we were hearing from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who tweeted, "The safety of our service members must be ensured and needless provocations from the administration should end." She ended her tweet by saying America and the world cannot afford a war. Our Georgia elected officials also weighing in tonight. Congressman Jody Hice sent prayers to those who, quote, "protect the defenders of freedom." He also gave his support to President Donald Trump, saying America will not be bullied by terrorists. And additional calls for prayer were posted by Congressman Tom Graves, Congressman Austin Scott, and Congressman Rick Allen, who asked Americans to come together to fight against those who wish us harm. Congressman Doug Collins, who we've seen a lot of, showing a lot of support for President Donald Trump, called for more support of troops. And while Congressman Hank Johnson called for peace on both sides, specifically asking the president to hold fire and not escalate. So we're going to stay on top of this, and if there's any developments with the social conversation, we're going to bring them to you.
Okay, thanks a lot. By the way, folks, we're going to bring you updates on these airstrikes throughout the newscast. By the way, for those updates, it can be sent right to your phone. Just download the 11 Alive app.